I hadn't spoken in 20 years, not a single word. People thought I was mute, but when that song played, my mouth moved before my mind did. I want you to understand something. Silence isn't empty. It's heavy. It fills your lungs like water. Every day I didn't speak, I carried more weight, more names, more faces, more of her. But I'm speaking now, and God help me. I don't know if I should be. It started on a Tuesday, October 17th, 2004. I remember because it was trash day, and I'd forgotten to take the bins out. Stupid detail to remember, right? But that's what your mind does when it's trying not to remember the important things. It holds on to garbage day. It holds on to the smell of coffee burning on the stove. It holds on to anything except the truth. My wife's name was Eleanor. Eleanor. Grace Mitchell. Ellie, I called her. Everyone else called her Elle. But to me, she was always Ellie. My Ellie. We'd been married 32 years that October. 32 years of arguments about whose turn it was to do the dishes. 32 years of her stealing the blankets. 32 years of her humming while she cooked. Always humming. Never singing the words, just the melody. Like she was keeping a secret, even from the song itself. She had this way of looking at me when I'd say something stupid. One eyebrow up, corner of her mouth trying not to smile. That look that said, I married an idiot, but he's my idiot. I'd give anything to see that look again. That Tuesday, she asked me to go to the store. We needed milk, bread, the usual things. But I was watching the game. Eagles were playing, and I actually told her, can't you just go? It's fourth quarter. She didn't argue. She never did, really. Just picked up her purse, kissed the top of my head like she always did, and said, I'll be back in 20 minutes. Try not to burn down the house. Those were the last words she ever said to me. 23 minutes later, a kid texting his girlfriend ran a red light doing 50 and a 35. Ellie's car spun twice before it hit the pole. They told me she died on impact. They told me she didn't suffer. They tell you a lot of things when someone dies. Most of it's meant to make you feel better. None of it does. I spoke at her funeral. I had to. People expected it. I stood up there in my cheap black suit that didn't fit right anymore, and I said all the things you're supposed to say. She was beloved. She was kind. She lit up every room. All true. Every word. But they felt like lies coming out of my mouth. Because I was the one who should have gone to the store. After the funeral, people came to the house. They brought casseroles nobody ate. They told stories about Ellie that I'd heard 1,000 times. They hugged me and said things like, she's in a better place. And, time heals all wounds. I smiled. I nodded. I thanked them. And then they left. And I was alone in a house that still smelled like her perfume. That's when I heard it. The record player. We had this old Crosley in the living room, one of those vintage ones she'd found at an estate sale. She loved that thing. Loved putting on records while she cooked or cleaned or just sat reading. I walked into the living room and I don't know how, but a record was still on the turntable. Must have been the last thing she played before she left that day. The needle had run to the end and was just sitting there, crackling in that endless loop. I reached down and moved it back to the start. And then I heard it. Dream a Little Dream of Me. Ella Fitzgerald and Louis Armstrong. Our wedding song. She used to sing it to me. Not hum, sing. That was the only song she'd actually sing the words to. She'd hold my hand in the kitchen and sway, and she'd sing, "Stars shining bright above you. Night breezes seem to whisper, I love you." Her voice wasn't perfect. She'd go off key on the high notes. But it was her voice. It was Ellie's voice. And standing there alone, listening to Ella and Louis sing the words my wife used to sing to me, I opened my mouth to say something. Anything. Maybe her name? Maybe, "I'm sorry?" Maybe, "Come back." But nothing came out. Nothing.
I tried again. My jaw moved, my throat worked, but no sound, just air. That's when I understood. I didn't deserve to speak. Not anymore. Because the last thing I'd said to her wasn't, "I love you." It wasn't, "Be careful." It was, "Can't you just go? It's fourth quarter." Those were my last words to my wife. And if those were my last words to her, then they deserved to be my last words to anyone. So, I stopped speaking. People noticed pretty quick. My son called and I didn't answer. He came by and I wrote on a notepad, "I'm fine, just don't feel like talking." He thought it was grief. He said I'd come around. I didn't. Weeks became months, months became years. I got a job at the library, perfect place for a mute. I sorted books, shelved returns, helped people find things by pointing. My manager was patient, kind. She never pushed me to explain. Life became smaller, quieter. I learned sign language from YouTube videos. I started carrying a small notepad and pen everywhere. Most people stopped trying to talk to me after a while. I became that old guy who doesn't talk, the neighborhood curiosity, the library ghost. If you've ever lost someone, if music ever brought back a memory you couldn't handle, like and subscribe. You'll understand why I couldn't speak all those years. The years blurred together after that. Birthdays came and went. Holidays I spent alone. My son tried to stay in touch, but it's hard to have a relationship with a father who won't speak. Eventually, his calls came less often, then almost never. I can't blame him. What kind of father chooses silence over his own child? But every night, I'd sit in that living room. Sometimes I'd put on the record, sometimes I couldn't bear to, but I'd sit there, in the chair that used to be Ellie's, and I'd remember. I remembered her laugh, the real one, not the polite one she used for strangers, but the one that came from her belly when something truly struck her funny. I remembered the way she'd bite her bottom lip when she was concentrating on a crossword puzzle. I remembered how she'd leave little notes in my lunch bag. "You're my favorite person. Don't forget to smile today." Once, just a drawing of a heart with our initials in it, like we were teenagers. I remembered her telling me, 3 weeks before she died, that she wanted to take a trip. Just the two of us. Maybe Italy. Maybe Ireland. Somewhere we'd never been. Before we're too old, she said. I'd said we'd do it next year. There was always next year. Except there wasn't. 20 years. That's how long I carried it. 7,300 days of silence, of penance, of punishing myself for being too lazy, too selfish, too stupid to go get milk and bread while my wife watched the damn Eagles game. Last Thursday I went to the library, like I always do.
Sorted returns, shelved books, helped a kid find the bathroom. Normal day. Quiet day. I was in the back processing donations when I heard music. The library was running some kind of event in the community room. Local artists, live performances, that sort of thing. I usually avoided those. Too many people. Too much noise. But something made me stop. I put down the book I was holding, and I walked toward the sound. The community room doors were open. Inside, a woman was singing. She was young, maybe 30, dark hair pulled back, simple black dress. Behind her, a man played piano, and she was singing, "Dream a little dream of me." I stood in the doorway. My hands started shaking. That weight I had been carrying, 20 years of it, it started pressing down on my chest like a physical thing, like I was drowning. But I couldn't move. I just stood there, listening. She got to the bridge. "Stars fading on, dear." That was Ellie's favorite part. She'd always close her eyes when she sang it, like she was somewhere else, somewhere beautiful. The woman's voice cracked slightly on a high note, just like Ellie's used to, and something broke inside me. I felt it physically, like a dam breaking, like ice cracking. 20 years of silence, of held breath, of swallowed words, all of it came rushing up from my chest into my throat. My mouth opened, and I whispered, "Ellie." Just her name, so quiet I barely heard it myself, but I heard it. And then I said it again, louder, "Ellie." The song was still playing. The woman was still singing. People were applauding, but all I could hear was my own voice saying my wife's name for the first time in 2 decades. Eleanor Grace Mitchell. I started crying right there in the doorway of the library community room. Old man, tears running down his face, whispering his dead wife's name like a prayer. Someone asked if I was okay. I think it was Janet from circulation. I turned to her and I actually said, out loud, with my voice, "I'm okay. I'm okay." She looked at me like I was a ghost. Maybe I was. I walked outside, sat on the bench in front of the library where I'd eaten lunch every day for 15 years without saying a word to anyone. And I kept talking. "I'm sorry, Ellie. I'm so sorry. I should have gone. I should have gone to the store. I miss you. God, I miss you so much. I love you. I loved you then. I love you now. I love you until I'm dust." I said everything I should have said 20 years ago. I said everything I'd thought but couldn't speak. I said it all, to the air, to the birds, to the memory of a woman who'd been gone for 2 decades, but who I'd been carrying with me every single silent day. I called my son that night. He didn't recognize my number. I'd never called him before, only texted. When he answered, I said, "Daniel, it's Dad." He was silent for so long I thought he'd hung up. Then he said, "Dad?" "Yeah," I said. "It's me. I know it's been a long time. I know I've been gone, but I'm here now, and I'd really like to talk, if you'll let me." We talked for 3 hours. I told him about his mother, about the silence, about the guilt, about how stupid I'd been, thinking that not speaking would somehow make it right, would somehow honor her, about how I'd wasted 20 years punishing myself when I should have been living, because that's what she would have wanted. He cried. I cried. We both cried. At the end, he said,
she'd be glad you're talking again, Dad. She always said you had too much to say to keep it all inside. He was right. She did say that. I won't lie and tell you everything's fixed now. It's not. 20 years of silence doesn't undo itself in a week. My voice still cracks sometimes. I still prefer writing to talking some days. And I still sit in Ellie's chair every night, listening to that record. But now when it plays, I sing along. Off-key, imperfect, broken, but singing. Because I finally understand what Ellie was trying to tell me all those years with her humming, with her little notes, with her smile that said I was her idiot. Life isn't about being perfect. It's not about never making mistakes. It's about showing up. It's about being present. It's about speaking, even when your voice shakes. Even when you don't have the right words. Even when you're terrified of saying the wrong thing. Because silence doesn't protect you. It doesn't honor anyone. It just makes you small. And Ellie never wanted me to be small. Be honest. If you'd carried silence for 20 years, would you dare break it for a song? Drop your thoughts in the comments. I want to know. And if this story hit you, don't just scroll. Hit that like button and subscribe. Because every story here isn't just a story. It's someone's truth. Maybe even yours. My name is Thomas Mitchell. I'm 73 years old. I haven't spoken in 20 years. Until now. And I'm never going silent again.